Everybody set?
Mark here? It was outside. I thought it was outside.
No.
Oh, let's go.
All right, we're going to go ahead and call the Morgan County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting to order for March 22nd, 2021. We do have a quorum this evening with all members present. Mr. Rumball, would you care to lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'd be very happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Rumball, a copy of the minutes were sent out to us from our last meeting in February. Were there any changes, corrections, additions, or deletions needed for the?
I had one question here on, Mr. Larison, on he can answer that. 3 feet from the property line. 3 feet from the property line on that reconfiguration where the road goes in. Yeah, that was 3 feet.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? 1.5 foot. Okay, I was just checking that. That's the only question I had. No, I'd move that they be approved as sent.
I have a motion to approve the minutes as sent. Do I have a
Second it,
second?
yep.
I have a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. The minutes are approved. Copy of the agenda was sent to us prior to the meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, additions, deletions to the agenda?
Nope.
For a motion to approve the agenda then.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as sent to
Thank
us.
you. Have a motion to approve and a second from,
I'll second it.
thank you. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye. Aye. Agenda is approved. Our board attorney, Mr. Peden, is not here yet this evening. And so we'll ask Ms. Parker to swear in anyone who's going to speak before us this evening. Thank you, Ms. Parker. We have 2 items on the agenda, both under new business. The first being public hearing D-21-05, Holloway Engineering, on behalf of Larry and Laura Key, is requesting a development standard variance to split 7 acres off of 47 acre without the county required 90 feet of road frontage. The property is located behind 155 Peavine Road, Martinsville, Indiana, 46151, and is zoned ag. For this application, I have 2 people signed up, John E. Martin and John Larison. Mr. Larison, you going to lead this off?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
John Larison from Holloway Engineering on behalf of John and Sherry Martin. John and Sherry are the son-in-law and daughter of Larry and Laura Key. I've given you a couple of handouts there, and the 15-acre parcel that has Peavine Road running along the west line is the property owned by Larry Key. Larry Key also owns the east adjoining 47-acre parcel. And Larry would like to deed 7 acres to his daughter and son-in-law to build a house in the northwest corner of that 47 acres. I've outlined the 7 acres for you in black. They're in the northwest corner of the 47-acre parcel. And then you can see a little tail, looks like a tail running out to Peavine Road. There is an existing logging road there that the Martins would like to take advantage of to build their driveway. And we're here tonight because that 7-acre parcel doesn't have the required 90 feet of road frontage. I would like to point out that they will own all of this land upon the passing of Mr. Key. So, again, all the land, they will inherit all of this land. So we're here tonight asking for this variance rather than platting this property. And these simple, well, actually, there are two reasons. Number one, there is a mortgage against the 15-acre parcel, and it would require a release in order to cut that northern part of the 15 off and include it with the 7. And then secondly, you're looking at about a $5,000 expense to go through the subdivision process. This is a situation where these folks are going to own all of this. Larry is 80 years old, and again, they're going to inherit the whole thing. So we did offer the Martins the opportunity to simply write a legal description for the 7 acres and also to write a simple legal description of the easement. And that's just a lot more cost-effective way to get where we're trying to go in lieu of the fact that they are going to own it all before long. So I'll take any questions. Pretty simple situation.
Questions from the board?
I have none right now.
So John, that your person you're representing, his parents, if I'm looking at this handout that you gave us, are they in the, I'll call it a compound for just not coming up with a better term, of buildings that are in between that
Yes,
blue block
yes.
and
That is
Devon?
them. And it's a farming operation historically. That's why all the buildings, barns, and I believe they may have a little horse training facility or corral there. So, again, we're fully aware that we could subdivide this. We're asking for the variance just out of a practical reasoning that we really hate for them to have to go through that if it's not necessary.
Other questions from the board members?
Is there any plans to, other than the 7 acres they're planning to build on, any plans on expansion into that other?
No, there is not. There is a plan to build and keep the 7 acres out of the farm field, in fact. That is the plan for the property, along with the one home.
Well, of course, my comment is that they will eventually own it someday. A lot of things can happen, even though you want to pass your ground down to your relatives. Something can happen that they may not always inherit the rest of the property.
Well, that's true, but the easement that he would deed to them, it would be deeded to them and recorded.
Oh.
So whether they did eventually end up owning it or not, they would have easement across the existing logging trail, basically, is what it is at this point. They plan to improve it for their driveway.
Are there any line of sight issues if they put the driveway in as you show it here on the drawing?
There are not. That is a fairly flat, that's down in the bottom, and it is fairly flat. I'm sure that they would probably want to trim back those, the
Pretty
limbs
wooded right
and-
there.
I'm sorry?
Pretty wooded right in that area
Yeah,
there.
they'd want to trim back there on the south side of where the drive is coming out, as always, on every driveway.
It's a better location though than their other driveway. For the bridge there, the new bridge and the turn and the rate of speed that they've got in that road now. So that would be a much better location, in my opinion, as a person who drives that road.
Is that where the existing driveway is to the property now?
There's
Is
two
in that
driveways.
curve and you gotta go up the hill immediately?
Well, when you cross,
off
no,
of it?
no, no. If you came down the hill, let's put it that way, and you crossed the new bridge, there's a old road that used to go to the Sanders Hog Farm, and then there's Keys driveway, and then they're gonna be where the road straightens out. It's be a good location for an entranceway into a road.
John, did you put the sign up for this? You did. Is the sign about where that driveway is proposed to be? It kind of looked like it when I was out there.
Be real close.
Yeah, I was wondering why it wasn't up. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Other questions?
I have none.
Gene, Fred, Jerry?
No.
I'm not gonna ask it.
Okay, all right. Thank you, John. John Martin, did you want to speak? You don't have to. I'm sorry?
My dad always told me, don't answer questions that aren't asked. I decline.
Okay, I'm good with that. We've heard from Mr. Larison. On behalf of the applicant, we've offered a chance for the applicant to speak. They've declined. We have no one else signed up to speak in favor of or in opposition to this, so we'll close our go into our public meeting. This is an application for a development standard variance. In order for us to approve this, we have to agree that the applicant meets three findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant has written, the variance is for a single parcel, plus or minus 7 acres in size, for the construction of one family residence. The lack of road frontage has no practical effect on the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. Number two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, and the applicant writes, one single-family residence located on a 7-acre plus or minus parcel is consistent with the rural residential nature of this area. And number three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because, and the applicant has written, the 47-acre parcel includes no road frontage. Without the variance, the parcel's value is greatly diminished as only a portion of the parcel is being used for farming. For technical reports from the Health Department, to the proposed development standard variance. From the surveyor, they note that ingress egress is inadequate. For staff's report and recommendation on this, they have written the majority of the exempt split parcels are being developed into residential home sites. The 90-foot road frontage requirement ensures that these new parcels have direct access to the county road system. In this case, the petitioner will have to provide a driveway easement across their property, and in parentheses it says see blue dots on staff handout. If an easement can be provided, then it it's also possible to split off enough ground to establish the required 90 feet of road frontage. In staff's opinion, the petitioner has not demonstrated any practical difficulty as required by finding of fact number 3 that would prevent them from carving out enough area to meet the 90-foot requirement, and as a result, staff cannot recommend support for this request. Open for discussion.
Back in the many days ago, when we had our first zoning, it was probably a little more strict than anything we do right now as far as, you know, we paint your house this color but not another color, things like that. And where I agree with the staff report, it's all going to become one piece of particle, and I have an advantage that I know these people. I don't see why a easement to the road would be that dangerous for us to not pass. And as long as we would get an easement, I have no aversions to this.
Other discussion?
I agree with Bill on the thing. My concern would be in future out there, other than the 7 acres, to somebody would want to sell off part of the other back in there and start building other houses back in there, and I'd be strictly against that. Working just off an easement coming off of that old driveway that goes back in there. I don't see a problem with that. I just don't want to see any other development going on back in there, but if it's going to be for one residence and one residence only, I don't have a problem with it.
Any other discussion? Jerry, Jean?
I agree with that, what Ted said.
Okay, all right. Open for a motion then, if there's no more discussion.
I would move that we approve docket number D-21-05. Not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding of fact. A, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property, including the variance, will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because, A, the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. And on number 3, the stick diving through variance will result in practical difficulties for use of the property because the reasons stated in the petitioner's finding of facts. And prior to any development standards being going, there should be a easement in place that ends it.
Thank you. Have a motion with condition that an easement be put in place. A second to that motion?
Can you amend that motion?
Yes, you can before we, yes, you can.
Can we amend that to, that easement be for one residential place on that 7 acres only, not for any future development?
I withdrew my motion when he did that.
Okay, all right.
And I can restate it. Restate it with the approved, what I had done previously, and that it be an easement for this 7-acre parcel only.
Correct.
All right. Anything else on the motion? Do I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved.
May I? Thank you. Thank you.
maybe infringe on your. I didn't
A little
mean to
late, did you
infringe
want
on
to
your-
speak, address the board this evening? Well, are you here on a certain petition? Oh, the one we just completed. Sorry we didn't get you up here to speak on that one, but we've already approved it. But you're welcome to stay. We're all done? Absolutely. All right, our next item on the agenda this evening is public hearing D-21-06, Holloway Engineering on behalf of William, is it Boucher?
It is Boucher.
Standard variance to split his parcel into two parcels without the county-required 90 feet of road frontage. The property is located in Green Township at 879 Nass Chapel Road, Martinsville, Indiana, 46151, and is zoned for agriculture. For this application, I have one person signed up to speak. That would be Mr. Larison in support of this petition. I do not have anyone signed up in opposition. Mr. Larison.
Thank you. Here on behalf of William Boucher, this 4.511 acre parcel at 879 Nass Chapel Road is owned by Mr. Boucher's son, William III. And our client, William, the elder, is retired and would like to build a single-family home in the northeast corner there of that 4.51 acres. If you have a picture of it, it is up in that wooded portion that he wants to build actually a very small wooden cabin is what he has planned. Ideally, they would like to use the existing driveway and then at the notched out corner of the property, turn left, run along that westerly property line, and then turn east 90 degrees and run along the north line of the property with the end of the drive to the northeast corner. So this is the same, a lot of the same situation that we've been coming in quite a few times recently. Their feeling is in doing this, it's going to save two rather impractical difficulties, and that is, number one, they would rather not have to build a second driveway for the obvious expense, and number two, to split this any other way and put his own driveway in would require driving through the son's backyard, which he would really like to avoid if at all possible. So, again, it is possible to split this property with 90 feet of road frontage. We could do it, but that's not the way they want to use the property. They would greatly prefer to use the existing driveway for the expense, and they'd like to keep the traffic out in front of the existing home. Be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Questions from the board?
Is this sort of like a mother-in-law house?
I'm sorry?
Is this sort of like a mother-in-law house?
It is going to be a small home. Again, Mr. Boucher is retired. He'd been an over-the-road truck driver for his career. His grandkids live in the house up front, and he wants to retire right there. So that is the single reason why this piece of ground. And it is going to be a small, he said he'd like to build as small place as he could and meet the ordinance. He's got a log cabin possibly even a one-bedroom, small house. And that is his preference for the property.
I guess my only question is to Mrs. Parker, if it's possible to ask her a question. If he was building this as a mother-in-law type home like we had just recently, does it really have to be split? Can he not put that on there?
I really believe if there's any mortgage involved, that would create difficulties. You have to tie up a mortgage to real estate, not the house. So there would have to be a division of some kind for real estate mortgage purposes.
That answers it.
John, as I'm looking at this aerial photo here, I've got the house, it's got the big, looks like screened-in front porch. It runs along the front of the house there, and then going towards the top of the page, I've got what appears to be a garage.
That is a garage, yes.
Sitting there, and then I've got just before the property line, what's that white rectangular shape? Feature.
You know, I don't know. It looks like it would maybe be a chicken coop. Just from looking at it, the length of it versus the.
And then across the property line, the white square outline building, do we know if that's a barn?
That is a barn.
It is a barn?
Yes.
Other questions from the board members?
No, I have not.
No? Have no one else here to speak on behalf of this application, so we'll end our public hearing and go into a public meeting. We have in front of us an application for a development standard variance. In order for the board to grant this, we have to agree that the applicant meets 3 findings of facts. The first being that the approval will not be injurious to the public health, morals, and general welfare of the community because, and the applicant writes, the request for variance will allow for the division of a 4.5 acre plus or minus parcel and the construction of an additional single-family residence. The division of the parcel in a way that indicates no road frontage. This has no practical effect on public health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the community. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because written, the construction of one additional residential dwelling on the 4.5 acre parcel will create an average of 1 dwelling per 2.25 acres. That average lot size is not inconsistent with parcels in the general area. Number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because, and the applicant has written, the client wishes to build a second dwelling and would prefer to divide the parcel in a way consistent with the way they plan to occupy the parcel. For technical reports, it states they have no objections to the proposed development standard variance. And the surveyor notes that the ingress egress is an adequate. Staff's recommendation is that this property is generally flat with about 255 feet of road frontage. There is no obvious geographical reason why the property could not be split without the 90 feet of required road frontage. It may result in a longer driveway, but the cost of driveway construction is not an allowable justification when it comes to waiving the requirement. The petitioner has not articulated any practical difficulty as required by finding of fact number 3 that would prevent them from splitting the parcel in a manner that meets the 90-foot requirement. Therefore, staff cannot recommend support for this request. Open for discussion amongst the board.
You drive by this area and you see that basically in front of his garage, there's another house sitting, quite a large house, and when you look at this blue diagram here, it just looks like that one section was cut out of a perfectly good, close to a rectangle. And you have a fair amount of that over there, small houses, different things like that. I don't think it's a smart thing to do, but I would not be opposed to it from a cost standpoint.
Other discussion?
I just think that should, there's enough land there that they should be able to come up with something to get in there to have the 90 feet. We're establishing rules and, somewhere we've got to stand on our grounds to keep that 90 feet easement in here, and I think there's more than ample enough here that we could maintain and keep that if they wanted to separate it off. I know it's going to be more expensive too, but
Well, and we have rules, why have rules if we're going to break them every whip stitch?
Well, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Peden since he's not here this evening, but I do recall him reminding us frequently that we are a Board of Zoning Appeals, and that's what we're here for, is to hear those exceptions and up to us to decide whether or not we should grant those exceptions. Mr. Larson, any idea where the septic field is for this residence?
Yes, it's right off the end of the driveway. In fact, you can see a little clean out, probably 40 feet off the end of the drive there.
Is it on the other side of the driveway than the residence?
It is east of the driveway on the north and east end.
Okay.
We are aware of the location and steering clear of it.
The dark green area. Pointed out. Thank you for that.
I guess I realize that I'm old-fashioned. I agree with Janie that we got rules, but it seems like all we do is deal with things that the rules don't quite cover as adequately as we
that's our
wish
job.
they would. It's relative. And, the ground ever be sold or something like that, or something happens, you never know what's gonna happen.
Thing I'm afraid of.
I don't have any objections to coming out that way.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, to your point, Bill, it is a relative. It's not trying to do something to accommodate a family member. I'm all for that when possible. I think it's kind of an odd way to run the driveway, but I guess you get the pond that sits back there that would impede getting around possibly behind that. I don't know what the topography is exactly on that.
I mean, on that south side, there's some beautiful trees there, not monstrous, but nice trees, and they're pretty up close to the other neighbor's house there. Hate to have to take those down.
Oh, please, please.
So while you could require the split with the frontage, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to use that area for their driveway access. So in your packet, I included a diagram of what that would look like roughly if they had the 90 feet. But they could continue to use whatever driveway access they wanted to establish. Because we don't know who's gonna own this property 50 years from now. And it may not be a family member. And then they would have an alternative. Otherwise, it's been your practice in the past to require a driveway maintenance agreement.
Would that, yeah, would that be a 90-foot easement or a 90-foot parcel along with this?
Driveway easement is what we normally do. It does not have to be 90 feet wide in any way. In fact, they're often double that wide. The 90 feet is only for the creation of the actual parcel boundaries as required by the zoning ordinance. And we have had occasions where they would create the split, establish their 90 feet so they could use the exemption without visiting this body. But their driveway might go across another portion of the adjoining property. Doesn't happen a lot, but it has happened.
So hypothetically, we could require in a motion that they establish an easement from this property on the south side of the line, or how do we, with your help, how would we do this if that was something that we wanted to do?
Well, their request is to waive that 90 feet of road frontage. So your decision tonight is to waive it or to require it. If you waive it, then essentially you're saying they need to have that driveway easement that you normally would require an agreement for to be incorporated on that split. If you require the 90 feet, it's up to them to establish that driveway easement on their own.
Well, if they did it the way that you've indicated in your diagram outlined by blue, and it looks like a flagpole, right? They wouldn't need an easement because that'd be parceled off to them, is that correct?
But that doesn't mean they have to use it. They should continue to use the drive as they have lined out on their original intent. So there's nothing that compels them to use that next up, the flagpole portion.
And it looks like they'd give up, the current landowner would, to accommodate that, would sell them another probably acre and a half of land. To do that?
That's a pond in the southeast corner, isn't it, John?
Did you say pond?
A pond, yes.
Yes, it is a pond.
How wet is that ground back there, since we did
I
not?
mean, it's like any pond. You wouldn't want to put a driveway south and east of it. There's just not room to. So the only, if we did establish one through the flagpole area, it would need to be in the backyard of the existing home. And that really just is not preferable to them.
I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't in this case, then, aren't I?
Yep.
We're aware that we would need to establish a driveway easement and would do so before any deed or property.
Step up to the microphone, please, would you, John? With the trees and the pond and that, is there a logical place to establish an easement? I agree with Laura, this isn't gonna stay this way forever. He's gonna roll over like the rest of us are, or somebody they're gonna sell it or something like that. Is there a logical place here to establish an easement?
Well, there is, and it is across the existing driveway. And I agree, a driveway easement is critical, so that if someday it's not in the family, there is an agreement that governs how, when, and who will pay for the maintenance of the driveway.
Our infamous road maintenance agreement.
Yes, every time.
I wanna say it's their property, they can do with it they want, but then I've gotta agree with Laura, she's brought me into the 21st century, and, say there's gotta be a better way to do it than this, but I don't know how. Fred, you got any great ideas?
And I'm beating this thing around, it's beating me around, and
Puzzle.
I wouldn't want somebody who I didn't know living back there with 14 kids, and they all got cars, driving down my driveway all night long, and things like that.
yeah. To get in,
God, I wish you had a better idea.
yeah.
It really is not ideal in any way.
I don't see that.
But it is a nice 1.5 acre parcel back in back that is completely unused in a beautiful setting, really, to build a house. If you've been by it, it's very
Yeah.
nice. Nice little wooded parcel, and it's
Well,
completely.
let me ask this question, it's hypothetical. Down that south line, down this south line here, it become part of the parcel, it's 90 feet. They don't have to use it, obviously.
That, I didn't want to go there with the board earlier because it sounds a little, combative maybe. But obviously, I think that's probably what they would do. And if they were required to have 90 feet along the south line, I don't think that would be a deal killer. In lieu of the fact that he'll just deed his father an easement across the existing driveway, and that's doable.
I mean, right now, as long as Grandpa's alive, he can drive out that driveway, we don't care.
Yes.
And Grandpa sets the rules.
And that single family, or that single bedroom house could be developed into a 4-bedroom house without much trouble, and a septic system and all that other. And, if we required Mr. Larison to reconfigure this with a 90-foot of road frontage, could it be passed without them having to pay another fee to get this done, or would it just be an automatic deal and they would just be able to do it?
Would be no need.
Yeah, there's no need to come back to this board because it's allowed. They're reviewing in compliance with your zoning ordinance, so the exempt split would be permitted.
You think it would be the cost of your survey for 90 feet to run down a particular area?
No, it's not gonna raise the cost of the surveying services that we will provide. And we can divide it with the 90 feet. It's not preferable, but it's possible.
That would be my preference, that you put it in there. Whether they do it or not, I don't care. I mean, the kids may want to move back there later, and we'll be long gone before anybody ever realizes it, but,
I'd feel better if it had that 90 feet. I'd feel better if it had that 90 feet.
I mean, basically what we're saying, if we reject this, you're gonna have to do that because you know that that's gonna be the only way it happens. And yet, they can get a building permit and everything else and put that house in there, and then grandpa can drive up to the back door and park his pickup truck and see the grandkids.
Right.
I've made up my mind.
Any more discussion or questions for Mr. Larson?
Deny the petition or not?
Go ahead.
I'm
You want
gonna,
to?
I'm
Go
gonna
ahead,
open
John.
for a motion. This is a motion to approve the variances requested by the applicant. Do I have a motion to
I
approve?
would make a motion that we deny the petition. That's difficult for me to say.
Motion to deny. Do I have a second to that?
I'll make a second.
A second. So we're voting on to
D
deny.
2106, yeah, to deny.
All in favor of denying, please raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So it's turned down on a 4-1 vote.
I did not hear you. I move to deny D 21-06 development standard to allow an exempt split without the required 9-foot road frontage. This property is located in Nash Chapel Road, Green Township. Motion made with the raise followed.
Just three.
Not me.
That would be number 3. The strict applications and the terms of the zoning ordinance will not result in a practical difficulty to use the property, and I'm going to put down here, B, reasons stated in the staff report.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Let's see here, moving on, staff reports. Nothing from our attorney this evening. Laura, do you have anything for yeah. Anything for the plan director report?
Just wanted to let you know that today was the first day of our brand-new building inspector, so he is starting his training with Scott, our inspector of 21 years, so he's excited to be on board, and we're looking forward to having him.
Would you say his name again?
His name is Mike Snyder.
Mike Snyder.
He actually lives in Greencastle, and right now
Congratulations.
he's a very good choice. We're happy to have him.
Good.
Good. This evening, no? Do we have items on the agenda for an April meeting?
Our filing deadline is this Friday. Don't really have any just yet, but we might.
Okay. Yeah.
I have none.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
Yes.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Sir, you had a question for us? We're adjourned, but we'll, happy to answer if we can. Jerry?
How are we doing today? I own 305 Peavine. I'm next to the property that you guys approved for that drive.
Okay.
Well, my property connects to it. So I was thinking if I can connect that property, because since I have a 50-foot easement approval going to 275 Peavine to get to my property, and since it's been sold 3 times, the guy's not too happy or didn't know that he had an easement through his yard or through his drive. So since where you connected the drive to this, if I can put a drive to mine and make my neighbor happy. I probably have to file something or whatever, but I didn't get paperwork until late. And no one brought this to my attention until late. So,
Are you talking about the old Sanders Hog Farm property or the property towards 44?
now I'm on Peavine. Right off Peavine, you guys just proved this drive going
Okay, are
into,
you, on the Key property, are you closer to the bridge or to 44? When you're looking at it, are you to the left or to the right?
I am to the west, if I'm not mistaken. I'm connecting properties. See where the box is? I'm right next door to it. To the left of it if you're facing from Peavine. Yeah, facing the property from Peavine.
Facing the property from Peavine, you're to the left of the Keys property.
Right, so
Okay.
they're driving.
Bring your map up here for you can show us.
Okay. So, this is my property right here.
Okay.
This property right here, I have a 50-foot easement to go to this property to do that. So since you're coming here, I could just Y it, and now I'm on my property. And put a drive.
Do you have 90-foot of road frontage?
I probably have it on the other side. But I would have to ask this neighbor to have an easement through there.
Laura, if he wanted to attach onto the Keys acreage,
Okay. I didn't see that in there.
One house. That's all we did. We just
to one
restricted
house.
it.
You didn't ask
We-
anything, we restricted it to one house.
Yeah, he
So
was here
here's
at
my
the time.
property.
Yeah,
But you cannot utilize this because it's restricted to strictly that parcel so that they can't run everything back up in there.
Okay.
And we did that before you came here and said anything. So that was, in fact, I
we
had to
did
amend
that
my
for the
motion.
fact that, to maintain within that 7 acres there that he'd routing off instead of developing this back in here and running 20 houses back in here versus one.
Right.